While one former president was doing things like this on Veterans Day,
it was a great thing that happened.
the other stood in front of a podium and thought it was important to lie about his approval ratings.
Veterans, we have a 92% approval rating. We took that up from 38% from a certain previous administration that we won't mention.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above.
Trump decided to honor Veterans Day the only way he knows how, by honoring himself. And let's remind ourselves of the time he discussed the ultimate sacrifice he made.
Now, getting back to dating, right? And when you got to say to a woman, hey, listen, you got to go to my personal doctor and I'm going to have you checked out. Is that a tough thing to say to a woman, or you just got the balls to say it?
You know, I'll tell you, it's amazing. I can't even believe it. I've been so lucky.
Right.
In terms of that whole world.
You've never gotten a social disease.
It is a dangerous world out there. It
is.
Scary. It's like Vietnam, sort of like, you know, the Vietnam era.
It is your personal Vietnam, isn't it?
It is my personal
It is. You've
Vietnam.
said that many
I feel
times.
like a great and very brave soldier.
A lot of guys who went through Vietnam came out unscathed. A lot of guys who've gone through the 80s having sex with different women came out with AIDS and all kinds of things.
They survived Vietnam.
This is better than Vietnam, but it's
a little better. But every vagina is a landmine. Haven't we both said that in private?
A potential.
A potential landmine?
I think it is.
That's right. So
there's some real danger there.
But since we are on the subject of Trump and the military, well, let's discuss how the commander-in-chief has threatened to deploy troops to U.S. cities as recent as today. And just a couple months ago, he said that he and Pete Hegseth had discussed using American cities as training grounds for the armed forces.
Important mission. And I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
The president also said at the Pentagon yesterday that he wants American cities to be used as training grounds for the American military. Is this the highest and best use of the U.S. military, and is this the right way to train them?
I don't serve in the Pentagon. I run the House of Representatives. And what we need to be talking about today is real harm that the American people are going to feel because of what Chuck Schumer is doing. Let me tell you what's going to be
Well, hold on a second.
today.
As Speaker of the
Women,
House, do you
infants, and
let me
children are not
answer
going to
the
have
question?
nutrition
As
programs
Speaker of the
provided.
House, do you believe it's appropriate to use American cities as training grounds for the U.S. military, calling those people in the American cities the enemy within? I'm asking you, as Speaker of the House, do you think that's appropriate?
But also, the Trump administration has authorized a series of maritime strikes against boats that they have alleged to be trafficking drugs, to the point that the UK is now withholding intelligence. They just don't believe that they're doing it with the correct oversight.
A breaking news exclusive now coming into the Situation Room. Watch this. The United Kingdom is suspending, listen to this, suspending some of its intelligence sharing with the U.S. because of the Trump administration's strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean.
We are joined now by senior White House reporter Kevin Liptak and CNN national security correspondent Natasha Bertrand. Natasha, to you first with this exclusive reporting. I mean, this is a big deal. The UK is arguably the closest ally to the United States when it comes to intelligence sharing. What else do we know?
Yeah, Pam, it's a really significant rupture here. Essentially, what we're learning is that the UK is no longer sharing intelligence with the US about these suspected drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean because it does not want to be complicit in the US military's strikes on these drug vessels and believes fundamentally that the US military's use of force against these vessels violates international law, according to multiple sources that that we spoke to. Now, previously, the UK had been happy to help the United States locate and interdict vessels that were transiting the Caribbean that appeared to be trafficking drugs. But the key difference, of course, is that it was helping the Coast Guard intercept those vessels, arrest those on board, seize the drugs, and allowing these individuals to have some semblance of due process. But now the U.S., of course, has started striking these boats unilaterally with military force, killing everyone on board. The total now for number of people killed is around 76. And we're told that the UK is deeply uncomfortable with that, and they believe that it is pretty blatantly illegal.
Not only this, countless military leaders have expressed concerns. The Pentagon have reported that dozens of alleged narco-terrorists have been killed in operations executed under the claim of national defense. Yet the problem is that the administration has provided minimal public justification, limited transparency, and no clear congressional authorization tied to these killings.
First and foremost, the fact that no one can confirm that we've actually been taking out narco traffickers or huge drug traffickers, however you want to say it. And last week when we were talking about this, Dana had just seen the alert that the admiral in charge of the Southern Command had resigned. And he was the one who was in charge of this. And the reporting is that he wasn't comfortable with the mission and had been pushing back within the Pentagon. And do you think he would have resigned if everything was by the book? So we have 32 people that have been killed so far, 7 individual strikes. We know that the Colombian president is alleging at least that an innocent fisherman was murdered. We know that there's a family from Trinidad who's saying that a member of their family was killed. And then it is really important that we have repatriated 2 people, one to Colombia, one to Ecuador, because that indicates that we don't have any evidence to prosecute them, that we didn't know who these guys were. Because if you did have evidence, you would bring them before a court. And I know that you're going to make fun of me, and I am prepared for it each and every day, but drug traffickers also have rights. The law applies. We should have the evidence. They should be charged with something, and they should come before a court of law. And Rand Paul was on the Sunday shows this weekend, and he said to Kristen Welker, when you kill someone, if you're not in a declared war, which we are not, Congress with the war powers, you really need to know someone's name at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all these people have been blown up without any evidence of a crime. They're also saying that it's about fentanyl, and people who analyze the area are saying that there is drugs that go through, but it's mostly cocaine and marijuana that are headed actually to Europe and to Africa. So the government story is not adding up.
And as I've mentioned many a times now, adding to the gravity of this, you have the likes of Admiral Alvin Halsey, head of the U.S. Southern Command, the command that directly was in charge of these maritime operations, retired abruptly less than a year into his post. Reports from Politico and the Washington Post cited internal disputes over the legality of the strikes and Halsey's discomfort with what insiders describe as, quote, kill orders without congressional consent. And his departure is one of many, with further backlash coming from within the ranks of experience and law. Former generals and admirals warn that using the military as law enforcement without trial or congressional oversight is, quote, extrajudicial, and it sets a dangerous precedent.
Well, Secretary Hegseth has said some things about how unhappy he is with Judge Advocate Generals in general. His allusions have been about operational decisions where, the laws of armed conflict, I think, have restrained, operators on the ground from doing what they want to do, generally applying a lot more firepower, I think. But there's much more to it than that. The Judge Advocate Generals are the leading legal authorities for the military and each of the military departments. And to just blanket remove them all, I think to me is very clearly a move to put people into those positions that are going to be more compliant in general with what the administration wants to do.
The point it had lawmakers on both sides take to the floor to demand an explanation and legal basis from the White House, including letters requesting justification for these strikes. And then they tried to pass a vote to demand congressional oversight. And of course, Republicans rejected it.
Start with you, Senator Paul. What do you need to hear in a briefing? What questions do you have? You know, it's not so much about a briefing, but we haven't had a briefing. To be clear, we've got no information. I've been invited to no briefing. But a briefing is not enough to overcome the Constitution. The Constitution says that when you go to war, Congress has to vote on it. And during a war, then, there's a lower rules for engagement. People do sometimes get killed without due process. But the drug war or the crime war has typically been something we do through law enforcement. And so far, they have alleged that these people are drug dealers. No one said their name. No one said what evidence. No one said whether they're armed. And we've had no evidence presented. So at this point, I would call them extrajudicial killings. And this is akin to what China does, to Iran does with drug dealers. They summarily execute people without presenting evidence to the public. So it's wrong.
All right, so today, on this day, honoring the sacrifice of those who gave their life protecting the country and the Constitution, I feel it is important to note how the current president simply cares not about protecting either of those things.
I clarify that because many veterans are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't hear that. I only heard, when I say better, I would rather in a certain way get it, because people that get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I've given to many, are often horribly wounded or dead. They're often dead. They get it posthumously. And when you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, I always consider that to be the ultimate, but it is a painful thing to get it. When you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's usually for other things, like you've achieved great success in sports or you've achieved great success someplace else. When you get the Medal of Honor, generally speaking, and I've met many of them and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that is much more painful to get because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up and they've suffered greatly, whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody suffered other than they've worked hard and they've done great things. One's a military award, one's a civilian award, but sometimes very painful to get the other.
I mean, he's using military force as police without the usual guardrails, to the point that the people who helped enforce rules and build those guardrails are objecting to.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.